but it's making it out of cruelty, and it has to end. Wouldn't you agree? You know, there's something very special about our relationship with dogs, and that's what we're thinking about just for a moment today. You know, I was in New York just before Christmas, and many of you might have been there in recent years, and you've been to the 9/11 museum, and that museum is really, really powerful. But there's a section in that museum that looks at the dogs that went down into the embers of that building when no humans could go in to try and find people that were alive. And it takes me back to the terrible events in Turkey last year, where I campaign and many others do to try and improve the conditions of dogs. And there's so much torture and suffering there. But remember when those buildings came down? People from around the world came in with rescue teams with their dogs and went into those buildings and saved hundreds and hundreds of lives. A friend of mine's a deputy governor of one of the roughest, toughest prisons in the United States, Angola in Louisiana. And I spent a few days there many years ago. And there are prisoners in this prison that never leave, that will die there, and have never known any real love or companionship in their lives. And there was massive violence in that prison. But what the governor decided to do was to work with an animal centre to bring in dogs, young puppies that needed to be rehomed. And they put those dogs in with the prisoners. And over a matter of weeks, the bond that those individuals made with those animals changed the very nature of that prison. The violence dropped away. People started to care for animals in a way that never cared for people. And that system has now been adopted in prisons across America and around the world. We're only beginning to understand, ladies and gentlemen, how important our relationship with dogs are. In my home city of Milton Keynes, there's a centre of research looking at how dogs can sniff out cancers. And we're learning so much that in time we'll be able to develop artificial noses on the back of what those dogs do that will save millions and millions of lives. And if that is the case, why the hell do MPs in that place allow dogs to be tortured for experiments that make no difference at all and just make money out of suffering? Don't you think that's disgusting? Yes! And that's why we've got to keep campaigning. That's why it's so important that we never let this go. It's not just about the dogs, it's not just about the primates, it's not just about the cats. Of course we're compassionate and care about them, but it's about all the mice, it's about all the rats, it's about all the fish. Ultimately, this savage barbarity that Queen Victoria campaigned against over 120 years ago has to end today. Don't you agree? Yes! And that's why this debate today won't change anything, but it's a step on a long road. And one thing I do think might make a difference here, in New York before Christmas, I was working with a number of tech leaders on AI, artificial intelligence development. And the level of investment, the level of pace of change of this technology is absolutely phenomenal. And it will change every aspect of our lives, and it has to be regulated and controlled. But it can't just be used for corporate profits. It can be used for climate change, biodiversity, wildlife protection, and finding alternatives to animal testing. Wouldn't you agree? Yes! And people like Carol that are beavering away here, and we're talking earlier on about just trying to get more research money. We've got to break that vested interest chain of cruelty from the scientific institutions, from the breeding laboratories, from the people producing the peer-reviewed science papers that use animals, to the pharmaceutical companies, to the chemical companies, to the veterinary industry, to the MPs and peers and everyone that tries to keep this cruel madness going on when we know there are alternatives. You are at the cutting edge of change in this world. You're showing that care and compassion can make a difference. I spend my days campaigning for wild and domestic animals. I'm like you, caring and compassionate, and days I wake up thinking we're not going to make any difference, and other days I think we are damn well going to make a difference. And I've been selected as a candidate to fight in the election to go into that place when this election comes. And you can rest assured as a candidate, every single day I'm going to be talking about animals. Every single day I'm going to be talking about wildlife. Every single day I'm going to be talking about the caring, compassionate society in this country that brings us together, does not divide us. There's a beacon of hope to the rest of the world that we will make a difference. We can make a difference, but we've got to care to make that difference. So thank you for being here. Thank you.